Big question. Why do we need different arms of government? Imagine a school where one teacher decides everything: what students eat, when they play, and even what they wear. No one else has a say. Now, imagine the teacher starts making unfair rules. What if that teacher could never be challenged or corrected? Scary, right? This is why we need more than one person or group in charge, not just in schools, but in our government too. In this chapter, we'll explore the three arms of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. Through the eyes of Yari, a young boy whose uncle works in government, we'll see how these arms work together to ensure fairness and justice in society. We'll also learn why it's so important to have checks and balances to prevent any one arm from becoming too powerful. Meet Yari, a curious 9-year-old boy who loves asking questions. Yari is particularly interested in how things work, whether it's the machines in his father's workshop or the way his school operates. Recently, his uncle Danjuma, started working in the government, and Yari has been fascinated by all the new things he's learning. Uncle Danjuma, Yari's mentor, is a thoughtful and principled man who believes in the importance of good governance. He works in the legislative arm of government and often shares stories about how laws are made and why it's crucial for different branches of government to work together. Yari's family is from the north-central part of Nigeria, and their community is a vibrant mix of cultures, languages, and traditions. This diversity is reflected in the stories Uncle Danjuma tells, showing how different leaders and institutions across the country contribute to the governance of Nigeria. One bright Saturday morning, Yari was sitting in his family's courtyard, helping his mother peel yam for breakfast. His mind, however, was on something else. He had overheard his uncle talking about a meeting where people argued about a new law. Yari couldn't understand why anyone would argue over laws, which to him were just rules everyone had to follow. Uncle Danjuma, Yari called out when he saw his uncle passing by. Why do people argue about laws? Aren't laws just rules that everyone should obey? Uncle Danjuma smiled and sat down beside Yari. Laws are indeed rules, but not just any rules. They are rules that affect everyone, so they must be made carefully and thoughtfully. That's why we have different arms of government, each with its own role in making sure that the laws are fair and just. Yari was intrigued. What are the different arms of government? Uncle Danjuma began to explain, using simple examples that Yari could relate to. Think of the government as a big, complicated machine. Just like in your father's workshop, different parts of the machine do different jobs to make sure everything runs smoothly. The first arm is the executive. Uncle Danjuma said, the executive is like the engine of the machine. It carries out the day-to-day functions of the government. The president, governors, ministers, and commissioners are all part of the executive. They make sure that the country runs smoothly, just like the engine keeps the machine running. Yari thought about the engine in his father's workshop, imagining it working tirelessly to keep everything moving. The second arm is the legislative. Uncle Danjuma continued, this is like the blueprint or the plan that the machine follows. The legislative arm is responsible for making laws, the rules that everyone in the country must follow. This includes the Senate, the House of Representatives, the State House of Assembly, and councilors. But, Yari interrupted, why do they need to argue about the laws? Good question, Uncle Danjuma replied. They argue to make sure that the laws are fair and work for everyone. Just like when you and your friends decide on the rules for a game, you argue to make sure the rules are fair, right? Yari nodded. He remembered how his friends argued over the rules when they played football, each one trying to make sure that no one had an unfair advantage. The third arm is the judiciary. Uncle Danjuma said, this is like the safety mechanisms in your father's machines. The judiciary makes sure that the laws made by the legislative are followed and that the executive does not misuse its power. Judges, courts, and magistrates are part of the judiciary. Yari was quiet for a moment, absorbing everything his uncle had said. So, the judiciary is like the referee in a football game, making sure everyone follows the rules. Exactly. Uncle Danjuma smiled, impressed with Yari's understanding. And just like a referee can show a red card if someone breaks the rules, the judiciary can take action if someone in the government breaks the law. As Yari listened to his uncle, he began to understand the importance of these different arms working together. He thought about how his school functioned, with teachers, the principal, and even the students each playing a role in keeping things orderly. Yuri realized that just like in his school, each arm of the government had a role in maintaining peace and order in the country. Yuri also felt a deep respect for his uncle's work. He could see that Uncle Danjuma cared deeply about the laws being made and the fairness of the rules. This made Yuri think about how important it was to care about others and ensure that everyone was treated fairly. Later that day, Yuri imagined what would happen if there were no different arms of government. What if one person made all the rules, carried them out, and punished anyone who broke them? He thought about how scary that would be, like having a referee who played for one of the teams in a football match, making sure his team always won. In his mind, Yuri saw a world where the executive, legislative, and judiciary were all tangled up in a single person's hands. People were afraid to speak out, and unfair laws were made that hurt the weak. But then, Yuri imagined a world where these powers were shared, where everyone had a say, and where fairness ruled. It was a much better world, full of justice and peace. Yuri began to see the connection between what his uncle was saying and what he saw around him. He thought about the school prefects and how they made rules for the students. He also thought about the principal, who made sure the rules were followed, and the teachers who taught and guided the students. It was just like the arms of government, each with a different role but working together to make sure the school ran smoothly. Yuri also remembered hearing about a court case in his community, where a judge had to decide if someone had broken the law. He realized that without judges and courts, people might not get fair treatment, and the laws would be meaningless. As he continued to peel the yam, Yuri asked another question. "Uncle, what if one arm of the government becomes too powerful? Can the others do anything about it?" Uncle Danjuma nodded. "That's the whole point of having three arms, Yuri. Each one keeps the others in check. This is called checks and balances. If one arm tries to take too much power, the others can step in and restore balance. It's like when you and your friends play football. If one person tries to cheat, the others can stop the game and make sure everyone plays fairly." Yuri smiled, understanding that the government, just like his football games, needed rules and fair play. He realized that without checks and balances, the game or the government would be ruined. As Uncle Danjuma talked about the importance of checks and balances, Yuri noticed a worried look on his uncle's face. It made him wonder if something was happening in the government that wasn't right. This thought stayed with Yuri, making him more eager to learn about how the government worked. Uncle Danjuma told Yuri a story from his childhood about a time when a leader tried to take all the power for himself. The people suffered because there was no one to stop him, but eventually, other leaders stepped in and restored order, showing Yuri the importance of having different arms of government. As the day ended, Yuri felt proud of all he had learned. He understood now why it was so important to have different arms of government. Each arm had a role to play, just like the players in a football game. Together, they made sure the country was governed fairly and that no one had too much power. Yuri also realized the importance of being fair and just in his own life, whether it was playing with friends or helping his parents at home. The lessons he learned from his uncle would stay with him, guiding him as he grew older and took on more responsibilities.